On today's Domain Sherpa discussion, we're going to talk about a rash of theft allegations that's going on and who's responsible. Is it VeriSign that transferred the domain names? Is it bad legal work? We're going to find out. Mike Berkens is actually affected, and we'll have an update on that. Moniker.com has once again been accused of allowing security breaches in their system. We're going to look into this issue and whether you should be pulling your names out of Moniker or not. We'll find out. Last week, we talked about Toby Clements and the daily domain newsletter. If you are owed money by Toby, there might be some restitution coming your way. Pay attention. I've got a phone number for you to call. We answer some reader questions about what happens when a TLD goes belly up. Another reader asks if .com will go away when mobile rises and is the majority, when people just talk into their phones to look for things. We're going to ask what's happening when .tv domains get pulled back out of your account after you just registered them. We're going to talk about TLDs going live this week. .desi, .city, .nyc, .attorney, .lawyer. What did the Sherpas buy? We've got a guest Sherpa. Stay tuned. I have 3 sponsor messages before we get into today's show. First, if you have a great domain name and nothing to show when people visit, you're missing out on potential advertising revenue, leads, and partnership opportunities. NicheWebsites.com can build you a site quickly with a price option to suit any need. But as their tagline says, they don't just build websites, they build businesses. NicheWebsites.com. Second, if you're buying or selling a domain name or portfolio and you want an estimate of its value, Estabot.com is the place to go. Just like you'd visit Zillow.com to get an estimate of a house value, Estabot.com provides key information about the most important statistics so you can make an informed decision based on data. Finally, whether you're buying, selling, brokering, or financing a domain name, you need an escrow company that's properly licensed, bonded, insured, and audited. That company is escrow.com, and they've been doing it since 1999. Escrow.com. It's about trust. Hey everyone, my name is Michael Cyger. I'm the publisher of DomainSherpa.com, and this is the Domain Sherpa Discussion. When news and events happen in the domain name industry and you want to hear a more in-depth discussion on the topic, you turn into the Domain Sherpa Discussion. We're joined by 4 domain name Sherpas this week. From left to right, we have Adam Dicker, CEO of DNForum.com and NicheWebsites.com, the company that will help you build, rank, and update your business website. Filling in for Paige Howe is Amar Kuba, past owner of Aftermarket.com and Agreed.com, both recent sales, serial entrepreneur, angel investor, humanologist, and quote-unquote master of his own domain. Michael Berkens, publisher of TheDomains.com, co-founder of the Right of the Doc Consultancy, and founder of the domain marketplace MostWantedDomains.com. And Rick Schwartz, the Domain King, and co-founder of the Traffic Domain Industry Conference, taking place October 30th through November 2nd, just a couple weeks away in beautiful Miami Beach, Florida. A few tickets remain at targetedtraffic.com. Gentlemen, welcome to this week's show.
Thank you.
All right, Amar. Welcome, buddy. We've got a lot of questions for you. Should we pepper him now, or should we just wait during the show?
Just be gentle.
Wait a little bit. Let's get to the meat.
All right. First up, there has been a rash of theft allegations recently, but when one of my Sherpas faces something similar, it hits a little too close to home. Mike Berkens had a rightfully registered .com domain name taken away from him last week. On his blog, thedomains.com, Mike wrote, overnight, he received a notice that several domain names he owned were transferred by a sealed court order by VeriSign without notice and without the court order because it was sealed. The domain names were transferred to Uniregistry, and they were put under the registrant information, quote, court-appointed receiver Robert Olea. I believe I'm pronouncing his last name correct, or O-L-E-A. As you wrote, Mike, according to DomainTools.com, there are now 4,973 domain names associated with that registrant, court-appointed receiver Robert Olea. Mike, you sent emails to VeriSign, the registry. You sent emails to Bob Olea, and the attorney who filed the case, Mr. Steele, what has happened since your October 2nd post?
Quite a bit of things have happened. It's all sort of behind the scenes. So I'd never heard back from VeriSign. I did hear back from Ms. Diolia, who wrote me a couple of times. And, to me, it wasn't a satisfactory response. So, he offered to transfer the names, my 3 names, back to me. But it wasn't the answer I was really looking for, because I know of other people who've lost names because they wrote to me. And, I really wanted and expected Bob, who's a domainer, to, come back with an answer to the effect like, wow, we screwed up, didn't realize it, we'll have to go back, we'll have to research it, figure out what names didn't belong to the defendant, make sure everybody gets their property back. It's not really what I got back. It was more like, we'll give you 3 names back, go away. And so, maybe stupidly, but I just didn't accept that. So I wrote back, it's like, I'm now in a position, where my lawyer side kicks in, and I see there's some stuff that's going on that's not right, and I'm not, going to just sit by and see other guys get screwed. There's a lot of, smaller guys out there who don't have money to fight, who, aren't comfortable calling an attorney up and discussing it with them, don't know you, don't know how to get a hold of you. So, no, I'm not going to take the 3 names back, but I expect you to do the right thing, and after that I haven't heard back. On the other hand, Phil from another service, Hoology, has been working very diligently for free, with no particular interest other than with some of the ICA guys trying to figure out what happened here. And I think we've concluded that there's over 9,000 names now that were seized. And trying to figure out how many were rightfully owned by the defendant when they were seized versus by somebody else is complicated, because there are a lot of drop names, and during drop cycles, the WHOIS record can change several times. Mm-hmm. So it's not like a sale where, one day Amar owns the name, and then I buy it, and then the next day I own the name. So depending on the registrar that the name is with, like if it's at Network Solutions, they would put up maybe a pending delete renewal page, then it might get caught by NameJet, it might go to auction, it might be under privacy. So there could be several different WHOIS records. So it's a pretty complicated process. Phil spent an enormous amount of time to try to figure out. He's identified, as I said, over 9,000 names now that were seized. But we don't really have a good feel for how many were seized from somebody other than the defendant in that action. So, right.
And why, in the first place, were your 3 domain names seized? Were they expired names by the defendant in that case, who may have gone bankrupt and let the domains expire, and then you picked them up by a dropping agent? Could that have been the reason?
Yes. I think that's exactly the reason. However,
were they recent ones?
There's one person actually bought a name. So there's different situations. My 3 were drops. So let's say the lawsuit, and I have no idea because it's under a seal what the lawsuit was about. That's not really my business. I mean, somebody went to court, somebody got a judgment, and then try to collect on the judgment. So, there's a time period from the time the suit was filed to the time that the judgment was granted and the order was entered. And in that time period, maybe the domain owner, who is the defendant, just stopped renewing names, figuring he's going to use them anyway. So, So it's just trying to identify them is very hard, because you have to almost do it manually. Like a domain tools 1-by-1 lookup or Hoology 1-by-1 lookup, very complicated.
Yeah, well, and thanks for that understanding of the legal system as well, because I think a lot of people may just look at this and say, well, VeriSign just took a domain name away from Mike Berkens, and without any, cause, because there was a sealed court order. But in fact, somebody went to court, presented a case, the judge ruled, and then they seized these assets. Basically.
Right, now VeriSign could have, and in my opinion should have, before they just, handed the names over, they should have run a WHOIS and made sure that the person who is listed as the defendant was the owner of those names, they were in a position to do that. Of course, that would
what
take
difference does it make if the domain names should be owned by the plaintiff? Does it matter who owns them now?
Well, that does matter. I mean, legally it does matter. Yeah. I mean, the order, was to seize defendant's property. So if you had bought, let's not even talk about this case, talk about any case. So you buy, you buy a Mercedes from some guy for $100,000, and you buy it and you pay him, and then 2 months later, a tow truck shows up with a court order and takes your Mercedes away because the guy you bought it from owed money to somebody. That's a problem. So in the domain sector, the only person that was well positioned enough, besides the plaintiff and the plaintiff's attorney, would have then been VeriSign, to double check and make sure the names listed in the court order were all owned by the person.
Well, but it's an interesting case because I tried to look for an analogous situation in the real world with real property, and I thought of a burglary case where stolen merchandise is sold to a pawnbroker.
Right.
And in Florida, I believe that there are laws that say the rightful owner actually has to purchase it back from the pawnbroker for the paid amount, or file a police report and have the police seize it until the trial case. In this case, the trial has occurred, and so it's questionable whether VeriSign has the obligation to do a verification check, or, at the time that the lawsuit was filed, should the domains have been put into some sort of not for sale status until the trial was decided.
There's a legal term here from, if I recall, from law school called a bona fide purchaser, and so I believe it's the issue is that the court should have held, as you said, they should have put in place an injunction on that defendant's portfolio at the time, preventing him from either releasing any of them, selling any of them, or doing anything to reduce the estate. And that would be the fault of the legal process or the attorneys involved. And then once the domains get transferred out, and the people paid real value. So now if somebody knew, let's say it was, the guy was going bankrupt and it was $1 million name, and they knew that the guy was just paid him cash on the side, that kind of transaction could be revoked. But from what I'm hearing, what happened here, those are bona fide purchasers, and they don't have a right to seize those assets.
Yeah, well, it is interesting. So if an injunction was filed and the court says, okay, before we decide this, we're going to put this injunction in place, who would the injunction be filed with? Would it go to VeriSign, the registry, or would it go to all of the registrars?
It would probably go to the registrars, and they would lock those accounts.
But of course, a couple of years ago, there was a case involving about 2,000 .tv domains that Joe Williams' Joe Williams' company owned, and there was a suit filed by the shareholders, minority shareholders, and the judge did place an injunction. But again, in that case, the plaintiffs and the plaintiff's attorney, used an old list of domains and didn't do a current check, and a lot of names were enjoined that were also not owned by the parties anymore. So it still comes down to the fact that the plaintiff's attorneys needs to run an accurate list, right before they're asking for the injunction or the transfer, to make sure the assets are actually owned by the parties that are involved in the lawsuit.
Yeah. So if I'm a domain name investor, I'm not a big domain name investor. I have maybe a few hundred domain names. I picked up a few of the domain names on drop. I feel like I'm the legal owner. I'm maybe out like, let's call it $100 or a few $100s. What should I do in this case? Do I just need to sit and wait for the court to proceed? First of all, I'm pissed just like you, Mike, that nobody's even told me what's going on, that I just had these domain names removed, that I don't get a reason. What should I do?
Well, that's kind of why I answered Bob back the way I did, because there's really nothing they can do. I mean, if they paid $100 for a name and maybe it's only worth a few hundred or 1,000, or even though it's worth 5,000, I mean, it's going to be very expensive for anybody to go into court because the court's not going to do anything at this point. You have to get in front of the court. You got to get a lawyer. You got to get a lawyer in Los Angeles because that's where venue is. So if you don't live in Los Angeles, you got to get a local lawyer there. It's going to be pricey. I mean, I've talked to a few lawyers in the space about it this week, and they basically told me you're looking into tens of thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
Possibly. So
then it's a business decision. Is it worth going down that process for the domain names that you own, or do you just walk away from it and it's part of the process of being a domain name investor?
Right, and the people had written to me basically indicated that I'd lost the name, and that's kind of why I responded to Bob in the way that I thought he should have done the right thing and made go back, and he should do the work and figure out what names were taken that shouldn't have been taken and get them back to the people. But
why is Bob even responsible for doing that? How did he even get his name listed on the registrant information of those supposed 9,000 domain names?
I don't know. He was either a plaintiff in the lawsuit, or he was appointed by the court, or one of the parties. I don't know. Maybe.
Right.
I don't know if he was personally involved or was hired as. I don't know.
Hey, for Amar or Mike, the two trained attorneys that we have on the panel, how is it possible to get a court order sealed? Like, what are the requirements to even have it sealed? Any idea?
I think, I mean, it's obviously up to the judge. I mean, I think it's unusual for this kind of a case for it to be sealed. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not involved in I haven't seen a lot of these kinds of suits. Normally they would seal cases where there's more sensitive information, regarding, rape victims or children, or, I don't know. This seems like an unusual type of case to seal.
Yeah.
I think it happens more in criminal cases, and as Mike said, when there's something sensitive. So maybe in trade secret cases, maybe where there's some really sensitive information that you can't have out there, because if it's not sealed, then anybody can pay and access all those filings.
Yeah.
So who knows? It could be, this was in bankruptcy court, I believe. So maybe the debtor has some sensitive, information, or the debtor's attorney requested it be sealed.
All right. Well, kudos to Phil at Whoisology for helping out with this analysis.
I have two questions or three quick questions.
Yeah, Adam.
So, Mr. Berkens, it's Bob Ole, the pilot that we know, right?
Correct.
Domainer pilot.
Is that how you pronounce it? Ole, or is it Ole?
Yeah, Ole. Mike, how did you find out they were taken? Were you given a letter, an email? How did you know?
Yeah, I got an email from a small church that let me know that the name was ordered to be transferred to VeriSign under a sealed court order, and in fact, it had been transferred.
Did it come to your house?
No, it came email.
Okay, all right. Because, I mean, just trying to understand, for those people that like to keep their names in privacy, it may not make sense. The other question is, you said they were expired names. How recent were they purchased?
They had dropped in, I think one dropped in August. I dropped a month or so before that. I mean, it's obviously that they didn't run the list, more recently, right before the order was requested. So, what can I tell you?
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, we hope that information is useful to domain investors out there who might be affected or affected in the future. Next up, Moniker.com, the once top-ranked registrar, started by Monte Khan, sold over and over again, and now owned by KeyDrive SA, has been accused again of failing to protect valuable domain names from security breaches and hacking, as reported in DomainGang.com, .weekly.com, and Nat Cohen's DomainArts.com. It was stated that in the month of September, many, if not all, Moniker accounts were breached by an IP address of 88.150.178.59. Two of Jamie Zotch's Moniker accounts were logged into via that IP address. Nat Cohen didn't note any of the IP addresses, but noted that many instances of security issues related to his account have been perpetrated. I checked my two Moniker accounts, and IP logs did not show any security breaches. You can go on the left-hand side after you sign in and look at the IP logs. But then again, I transferred all of my domains out of Moniker about a year ago when they started having problems. I was
going to say,
Yeah,
Why
I
would you
emailed
still have a moniker account?
both moniker support team and their marketing team for comment yesterday. Did not hear anything back from them, not even a response saying, hey, we're looking into it. There's no notice on their site. There's no notice on their blogs or on any of their social media accounts. Adam, you have in the past been a big proponent of moniker. I believe you've moved all of your domains out of moniker. I'm not sure. I'd like you to clarify. And do you think that this is the nail in the coffin for moniker? Is there any coming back from this situation?
Yeah, I've never had any. I like Monty. I've done a lot of business with Monty. I've never had. I did have names there back in the day when Monty was there, but I moved them out long before he left. But they have a max lock program that is probably going to be changed to hack locked instead of max lock. I don't know what to say. I mean, I don't know why people would still keep names there even after the Chef Patrick scandal at Moniker that was a few years ago. So there's been so many different things that have come up with Moniker. I mean, the only people I can imagine that would still be there are people that don't know anything, keep their head in the clouds, don't read anything. I don't know of any seasoned veterans or domainers that would still keep their domains there. I mean, it's just not
Nat
something that I would do.
actually, Nat Cohen, who is a seasoned domainer, owns one of the, arguably one of the best portfolios of three-letter.coms, had domains there. He had them under their max lock program, which he paid for. And in that blog at domainarts.com, he noted that when they transferred everything over to the key systems back end to run it, they had inadvertently turned off his max lock system, so he didn't even have the max lock running. It's just
that's
like
ridiculous
a
in
comedy of
itself.
errors.
That's ridiculous. That's a smart guy. Maybe he should concentrate on staying out of all the groups he's in and all the writing and get his assets protected and get them somewhere secure and then get back into the writing, because it's clear that I don't know why he's still there. If anybody ever asked me about Moniker,
FMA lost. I mean, FMA had names there too. That I mean, I also got the same calls and the emails. So, but I mean, they had names. So if you look at busy.com, you'll see that was an FMA name, Future Media Architect. That was a moniker that got changed. There's the same email address and all of the Who Is records that the names I was made aware of that were stolen, which were all three-letter domains.coms.
Well, as far as I'm concerned about Moniker, when Barry left, that was it for me. I mean, she was very good. She's still very good, and Moniker has always been nicknamed by me as Alcatraz because it's easy to get in, but possible to get your names out. And that's not a joke.
That's what somebody wrote. They said that, transferring domain names out of GoDaddy is like immediate to 1 day. Transferring them out of, some other registrar was a couple of hours, and then transferring them out of Moniker was up to 10 days. It's just...
it's much worse than that, depending on whether they want... If you're a big customer and you start to transfer out, 10 days is even short because they're busy trying to get you to keep them there.
Yeah. Hey, Mike, you wrote on your blog yesterday or today that thedomains.com detailing how ICANN will terminate a registrar's accreditation for many reasons, including not paying their ICANN fees, not maintaining accurate data, failure to provide auth info codes for transferring domains, failure to send renewal notices, and similar reasons like that. They're very binary. Either, the registrar did it or not, and it's easy for ICANN to check whether they did that by asking for records. Should ICANN be responsible for doing security checks and forensic security investigations?
They don't have to do forensic security investigations. There's enough complaints out there for them to just look at a couple of instances, So, I mean, I wrote one of the instances I wrote about today was one registrar that actually was terminated, because they failed to transfer one domain name that somebody requested to be transferred to another registrar. Plus, of course, they owed $1,500 or some other crap. But, I mean, if you look, I posted a link to where you can look at all the notices that get sent. I mean, they send out a lot of notices of potential breach. 98% of them get fixed. Basically, they pay the money, which usually isn't a lot of money, and they push some paperwork that they didn't push before, and they're okay. So, but you don't really see anything about security, domains being stolen. If the registrar has no stability to their system, that allows stuff to go flying. It's all over the place.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
but
like the fundamentalist
but again,
thing
as a
that
journalist,
does.
I can only look at the blog posts and say that that yes, people are accusing them, but nothing's been proven yet, right? So who's going to actually go in and do the investigation? It's not going to be your local police department in whatever city you live in, even though, the law may require you to file your first complaint with your local police department. And it's not going to be in the state or country where your registrar is. ICANN seems like the responsible party. Rick, do you agree ICANN should be looking into this and be transparent about what they find, or do people just need to vote with their wallets and say, there's too much hearsay about moniker, I'm going to vote and move all my domain names someplace else?
Well, absolutely. ICANN is the responsible party. It's their rules. It's their party and it's their rules, and they don't enforce their rules. They don't follow their rules. I mean, it's a circus. Let's face it. Come on. I mean, there's so many violations out there that are, a lot of them are criminal violations, let alone violations of ICANN policy. There's a lot of criminal violations going on, and they're doing nothing about it.
Yeah.
They've been AWOL. ICANN has been AWOL.
Yeah.
Look at whoever has domain tools. Go look at recordforbusy.com, and you'll see a month ago it was owned by Future Media Architects, who we know is they're starting a little bit to sell, but they haven't been a big seller in the past. And today it's owned by a fake name, a fake address. What the registrant email, which is domain_id@yahoo.com, is the same current registrant of some other 3-letter names that have been stolen. They all have different names and addresses, but the email address is the same. So there's a name that's still seeing that moniker.
Yeah.
It wasn't even moved out of moniker. It just was moved to somebody else's account.
Well, and hopefully FMA, Future Media Architects, has filed an injunction so that it can't be moved anywhere until this court case can be looked at.
Well, there's no court case. Somebody has to file a lawsuit.
Why hasn't FMA filed a lawsuit yet?
I don't know. They should file a UDRP immediately. At least that locks the name down, although some panels have refused.
Yeah, UDRP isn't actually the right venue for that.
Well, some UDRP panels have transferred a stolen name back. They just figured out a way of doing it. But the important thing is at least locks the name.
Yeah.
As soon as the UDRP filed, the name is locked.
That's true.
And it can't be moved anywhere.
Good
so
point.
that at least locks it. That's the quickest way to lock a name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Amar, you're going to be in LA for ICANN next week. Mike, you're going to be in LA for ICANN. I say we gang up on Fadi Chahadi, the CEO of ICANN, and ask him this question and see what his responses are.
Well, I would say I agree that ICANN has some responsibility here, but I would also say that if moniker security, lapses are the reason that this all happened, they may be in compliance with ICANN policy. They just may have a really crappy, development team or security system or whatever that is. In which case, it's more of a dispute, a contractual dispute that FMA and anybody else who got their domain stolen would have against moniker.
Yeah.
Now, where ICANN should step in is if this can be proven that these domains were stolen. I've always said that ICANN should have more oversight and the ability to take action and force the transfers back or force the hand of the registrars. That's the leverage that they do have. So wherever these domains ended up, ICANN should be able to step in and say, hey, these need to go back to their rightful owner, and or at the very least, they should be able to lock them down pending some kind of resolution.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure if ICANN is responsible for monitoring the technical infrastructure of each registrar or each company that is subject to ICANN rules and
well, that's
policy.
the question. Should they be, or should you as a domain name investor just know about this and vote with your wallet? If nobody uses moniker because they can't protect your valuable assets, they should not be in business anymore because you shouldn't be paying them renewal fees.
No, I totally agree with that, and I would say the biggest companies in the world get hacked. No matter how good your security is, you're vulnerable to getting hacked. So I think that might be an unreasonable burden to place on ICANN.
That is true. The biggest and best companies in the world do get hacked. Google gets hacked. Amazon.com gets hacked. Nobody goes without getting hacked. But they all fess up as soon as they've been hacked.
Where ICANN can make a difference.
They all fess up as soon as they've been hacked. They talk about ways that they're preventing it, and they are transparent with their customers. I can't see that Moniker or Key Systems has done any of that.
Right. No, I agree with that. That's a different issue, though, right? Yeah. So, but what I'm saying is, I think where ICANN should be stepping up and increasing its oversight and increasing its control, I guess, is after the fact, and they should be able to come in and say, hey, this domain is subject to a dispute. It's going to stay here. Maybe they don't make a move yet. Yeah. They don't force it back to anybody, but they at least put it on lockdown.
Yeah.
Once a certain minimum,
Yeah. All right, Rick Schwartz, final word on this topic while I go grab a note from the other room. I'll be right back.
Okay, I'll keep it going.
Quick break from 3 sponsors of today's show. First, are you tired of being upsold and cross-sold when you buy or renew a domain? Then try the newest registrar being built from the ground up with a beautiful interface, competitive pricing, and 24/7 support. Uniregistry.com will surprise and delight you. The right domain can change your life. Uniregistry.com. Second, investing in Chinese domains is crazy hard without expert native language advice. Now, as a service to the Western domainer community, TLD Registry offers ChineseLandRush.com. Using ChineseLandRush.com will help you invest in Chinese domains with confidence and without knowing a word of Chinese. Finally, MediaOptions is a boutique domain brokerage firm that gets results. They've specialized in helping companies acquire and sell high-value domain names since 2005, with a client list ranging from funded startups to Fortune 500 corporations. Visit MediaOptions.com to learn more.
Well, look, I wrote about Moniker 3 years ago. That's on my blog right now, and I said my piece then when I moved almost all of my domains away, except for the ones that are basically being held captive because you can't move them away. Whether I have some like .tel and I think .asia that don't seem to be transferable out of Moniker. But look, it's not that they had a security breach like you were saying. It's because of how they handled it. It's like they don't really care. You understand? They just don't really care. And you know what? Who gives a shit about their add-ons that they sell? They only have one job, and that's to make sure your domain names are secure. That's it. If they can't do that, they have no value in the marketplace, and they need to close down and tell their customers that we're just not capable of doing it, and let the people move their domains as easy and amicably as possible, and as quick as possible.
Yep. Great point, Rick. All right, next up, last week we talked about the Daily Domain Newsletter, or DDN, that Toby Clements used to put out. It's not disputed fact that Toby took money from buyers, did not pay that money to the sellers of the domain names. He acted basically as an escrow service in between the buyers and the sellers. Yesterday, I spoke to David Clements, Toby's brother, by telephone. Here's what David told me. Brannans.com, BRANNANS.com, the domain name brokerage service operated on that domain name that Toby and David bought together years ago, is completely owned by David now. Toby has not owned it for years, and it's not associated with Toby. Brannans.com and David Clements are now operating the DDN newsletter. Toby is not. All transactions that go through DDN going forward will be processed at escrow.com, the leading domain name escrow company. And David understands that there is bad will associated with DDN, has been in contact with all sellers of domain names who are owed money by Toby, and David is going to make everyone whole and ensure that they receive their due money. If you are owed money by Toby Clements for a transaction in the past and have not spoken to David yet, please call David. And that's why I had to run to the other room because my computer crashed and I needed to grab a note. David Clemens' cell phone is 678-468-9228. I'll repeat, 678-468-9228. If you do not hear from David, email me, Michael at DomainSherpa.com, and I will make sure that you're connected to David. Rick, you were a vocal voice last week saying that Toby and DDN's names were both burned. Does this make you change your mind?
Well, I talked to David myself earlier today, and everyone knows me. I don't hold anything back. I don't play games. And he told me the story, and I told him what the perception out there would be. And I said, well, the first thing is you'd have to admit that basically Toby committed at least 12 counts of fraud or larceny or whatever they would legally call it when he took money for an item and didn't deliver it. So he has and I'm not a lawyer, but just as a layman, I would say you got a pretty heavy-duty legal problem, let alone problem with reimbursing people. And he's not able to be on everyone's shoulder telling him he's not involved or not involved or this involved, and all people know is you got Rick Latona on one side and Toby Clements on the other side, and things didn't go well in between. And to give a guy another chance, I don't know. It's going to be tough. I mean, it's really going to be tough. I don't know that it can happen. I mean, I don't know why he just didn't start a whole nother thing, and I don't get it. It's just it's a big mountain to climb. I mean, I'm glad that they want to reimburse, but the main problem was Toby went in hiding. I mean, it's always after the fact. It's bad enough that you do something. A lot of people, good people do wrong things at time, or whatever happens in life. But the hiding aspect is what compounds it and makes it really unpalatable when people go hiding and it's radio silence. And that's something that should have happened. This is great. This should have happened 24 hours after the incident. Then it would have had a lot of merit, really, because, it's been, 8 or 10 months? It's been a long time. And I don't have a lot of first-hand knowledge because I wasn't involved. I'm, like the rest of the people, I just hear little bits and pieces, but it's been going on for a long time, and this is a very small industry. At the end of the day, this is a very, very small industry, and all you have is your reputation, your name, and your character, and that's all I can say.
Yeah, good point, Rick. Adam, you also spoke to David, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, I did. And for me, it's a bit of a PR nightmare because anytime somebody hears the word Clements right now in the domain industry, it's going to make them a little weary. And unfortunately, he's guilty by association, even though if he didn't have any association at all. And like Rick said, it kind of looks like, all right, it took 8 to 10 months because maybe the money that they got then ran out, and now they're back in it for more money. So it's a bit of a PR nightmare. But I do give David some credit for stepping out in front of it and actually trying to be somewhat proactive. He obviously has a lot of PR work to do if he's going to somehow rescue this. But for me, the key is that all transactions are now going through escrow.com. So if I saw a name that I liked and I wanted badly, I would buy it as long as it went through escrow.com, because really at that point I wouldn't be sending my money to David. So that's how I look at it. I mean, I'm not happy with everything that went on. I mean, I know people that were paid 20 cents on the dollar are told they're going to get nothing. So I don't know how they plan on dealing with those people if they made these kinds of deals with. But I mean, for me, if it's I haven't been burnt, so I can be a little more open and a little more forgiving in the sense that if there's a name I want, it's going through escrow.com, I wouldn't feel weird about buying it, but I would certainly verify ownership and that he was able to broker it before I went to purchase it, which is not something I would tend to do previously.
Yeah.
He also reached out to me, and I chatted with him a few minutes. I don't really have anything else to add, but he's definitely making the rounds, and he's doing a lot of outreach and trying to do what he could do. I just was thinking, though, it sort of reminds me of ESPN a few weeks ago, you turned on ESPN to see the sports highlights, and half an hour you're sitting there listening about legal issues, people getting arrested, and all sorts of problems. And we're 40 minutes into the show,
right?
And we're talking about all of that
I was
too.
just about to turn the mic over to Amar and say, Amar, I'm sorry I brought you on as a guest, and like the first 3 topics are like downers. So let's turn it around. Let's talk about how much you sold your 2 businesses for. Let's do some good news. What do you have to say, Amar?
Thanks for everybody.
Well, I bought drinks for everybody even before we sold the business. So I'm not going to. I can afford a nicer robe now. How about that?
And we're all disappointed that you didn't wear the robe that you wore to traffic last year.
I will wear a robe on a future.
Awesome. All right, let's switch gears and get over to some reader questions. A question came in from Christopher Lumley. He wants to know what happens to registered domain names when a registry goes out of business, and who wants to bet on the first TLD to go under? Hey, Mike, let's start with you. If .rich goes bankrupt, because I think they have what do they have, like 60 domain names registered now?
I think 46.
I was giving them the credit of the doubt there. If .rich goes bankrupt or goes out of business, what happens to all the .rich domain names that have been registered so far?
So I mean, first part of the answer to the question is that as part of this application process, each registry had to put up either cash or a bond to cover 3 years of operating expenses. So, if everything went as it was supposed to go, then no registry can go out of business for at least 3 years of operating for the first 3 years. So after that, I mean, I know there are already registries that have been sold. There's the registries that have been sold. There's people looking to buy them. There's an active aftermarket. Yeah, I mean, it's potentially possible after the 3 years that a registry could go out of business. Nobody else would want to buy them. I assume the registries, the TLD would be delegated out of the zone, and names could be lost. But hard to in practicality, I don't think that's going to happen.
Well, I'll add that if .rich did go out of business, I don't think anybody's going to miss their .rich domains.
Well, shit, if I paid $2,000 for it or $10,000 or whatever their crazy amount they're charging, I'd be pissed that my domain's gone.
No, they'll be doing them a favor. They'll be saving them that annual fee.
Yeah,
right.
But I mean, really,
but Mike, I got a question. Mike, I got a question though. How does ICANN determine what 3 years of operating expenses is? Because if you have some guys out there that are spending a lot of money, let's say, on marketing, and some guys that are doing no marketing, those guys are going to have 2 very different operating budgets.
Right. Well, I mean, to go out of business, as far as ICANN is concerned, is that you don't pay them their $25,000 a year. That's always number one, is the money deal. So going back to the registrars that get suspended, it's usually the money issue. So, I mean, they've got the $25,000 a year sitting in the account. They have to have a back-end provider, and they have to have funded that for a certain amount based on the number of names they projected. So, if they projected 10,000 registrations and the back-end provider was charging them, $2 a name, then they had 20,000 times 3, 60,000.
Oh, you guys still there? Oh, there.
Plus, it really takes to run a registry. Yeah. I mean, promotion, marketing, that's sort of extra, if you will.
So basically, we don't know. It could be that they continue to operate for a while because there's money in this escrow account. Right. It could be that the registry gets sold. It could be that somebody... that it completely goes away, or ICANN could step in like, the federal government did when Washington Mutual and many other banks, but Washington Mutual was sold to JP Morgan Chase and they continued to operate.
Right. I mean, .rich isn't going to, obviously .rich, we can, joke a little bit about it, but I mean, really, if you look at the numbers, at 46 registrations, by the end of the year, they have 60. I mean, that's what, $120-some thousand coming in. Cost them $25,000 to ICANN. Very little to their back end provider. I mean, they're making a lot of money. You know, I mean, it's not bad. It's not a horrible
Well,
business.
I don't know about
you
a
know,
lot of
making-
money, but yeah, they should remain in business. All right, next up, let's get through some more questions. James Halderman wrote in saying that we're always talking about .com. Rick, pay attention. He has yet to hear discussions of changing access methods of mobile users. So as we know, mobile web access is exponentially growing. In 2017, there will be 27% of connected devices will be mobile, and they will consume 68% of all data, according to one survey I read. Should we care about TLDs when people are just going to talk into Siri on their Apple device or Robin on their Android device and ask for what they want and either click on the first result, or maybe these devices will get even smarter and just, you know, when you say Domain Sherpa, it'll just take you to the website. What do you think, Rick?
Well, you know, it's interesting. I've been thinking. I think at some point in the future, there may not be a reason to mention .com because it may just be the default. And it's becoming that because you can see logos now that don't have the .com anymore. They just have the name. And so I can almost take a completely different view of everything where the GTLDs could actually become highlighted, but the .com becomes the default. And as far as search and everything, you know what? I think in most habits we go to destinations. If you look at your daily life, you get in your car. You don't just go driving around, okay? Sometimes you do, but in general, even when you are just driving around, you have a destination in mind where you're going. And I think, and I've always said that the internet is going to only be a destination. You're going to specific places. And that's why the name is so important, because specific places get specific advertising, and word of mouth is still the greatest advertising medium the world has ever known. And it always gets back to that square for me on almost any question. Is word of mouth advertising is still the greatest medium ever known, and certain people lose fact of that. Yeah, the way we do things is changing. But the way we live isn't. Okay? I was looking at Apple the other day. They're genius. You know what? They look at life and they look at human beings and say, okay, what do humans carry around all the time? They always have a phone with them. They always have a watch with them. And most people, like old people like me, have glasses. And if you see that, that's the direction that they're going, is looking at people, what they have with them 24/7. So, you know, there's so many things going on marketing-wise that I think people are kind of invisible and below the surface of what's really going on. But yeah, we're always evolving, but we don't really change. How we do things evolves. Yeah, we go to opentable.com now to make a reservation. Before we used to call up the restaurant. We don't have to do that anymore, so it's easier. So anything that's easier and saves time, we will adapt to, and all the other crap goes bye-bye.
James thinks that users could care less about the location of the dot and really are not concerned about the com when using their mobiles. Only the techies care, he says. And he also says, remember that we've dropped the HTTP and the www might next, you know, and then the .com might be next after that. Do you agree, Amar?
Well, so I'm going to echo some of what Rick said, and I'll add on to it, is that no matter how we change in how we are navigating, right, whether that be by desktop or mobile or, you know, talk into your glasses or your watch or whatever it is and get somewhere, but you still need to know where you're going to. So you have to have a destination, just like Rick said. A destination has to be identified somehow. So in the real world, a destination is identified by a street address, right? Or a intersection or something. So online, you have to be identified somehow. And right now, that's through domain names. And, you know, .com is the most common and prevalent one. So I don't think that's going to go away. Unless they change the way destinations are named online, right? Or how they're referred to, how they're arrived at. But you're going to need something. And then on top of that, like Rick said, word of mouth. Or even more important is, not more important, but more important to have the domain name is a billboard. What are you going to put on a billboard, right? You have to be able to know where you want to go. And so as a company or a business online, you have to give somebody an address.
Yeah, and it might be the same as saying, GPS coordinates, latitude and longitude is more accurate than any address, because even if the address has changed or roads have gone in or gone out or whatever, your latitude and longitude never goes away. And with a phone, where the latitude and longitude are all you need, so that should be enough. But that's not the case. Street addresses are always going to be here.
Going to remember a GPS. You're not going to be able to say, "Oh, hey, let's meet at 74 latitude, 25 longitude at 3." That's not going to happen.
25.255684 longitude. Negative. All right. Next up, Ross Mayo, M-A-I-O, wrote in and said that in the last 2 days he caught 2.tv domain names via Dyna.api, and within 20 seconds the orders disappeared from his account. When he checked Whois, the TV registry had taken possession of them. I wish Paige were here, because I know that he has a lot of .tv domain names and might have used the Dyna.api. Mike, I'm not sure. Mike and Adam, I know you do a lot of drop catching. Do either of you have any experience with the Dyna.api, and have you seen this happen with .tv before?
I don't have experience with Dyna.api. I have seen that VeriSign, who is the registry for .tv as well as .com and .net, has taken a policy of on some dropping .tv names in recent year or so, or a year and a half, one characters and some other ones, of actually grabbing the names back and putting them back into into VeriSign's account rather than letting them drop. So that definitely has happened.
All right. Adam, any experience with this?
Not really, no. But I can tell you that 75 latitude and 25 longitude is somewhere in the Berkens Sea. I just checked. So I'm not meeting you there, Mar. It's not convenient.
Hey, Adam, there's plenty of fish in the sea. Haven't you heard that?
I've heard that from you.
Would you like to elaborate, Amar? All right, next week when I can. All right, last up, launch this week. .desi, .city, .nyc, short for New York City, .attorney, .lawyer. .desi is a term used by people originating in India or on the subcontinent around culture and products and people related to Indian culture. The registry launched a non-namejet premium auction, as Mike Berkens at the Domains.com noted. I should say the domains, or I should say the .domains. And while the auction doesn't run until November 2nd, I don't think that there's a single bid of more than $69, the minimum, on any of the domain names. And even the first bid might even be just, I don't know. It's hard to imagine that somebody put one bid on all of them. But it includes club.desi, jewelry.desi, photo.desi. .city is a Donuts TLD until I hear something from Donuts marketing team stating otherwise. I'm going to say that their marketing game plan is to say it's out there if you want to go register it. .nyc is probably going to be the big winner this week. Thomas McLean was kind enough to email in this morning and let me know that the city is heavily promoting .nyc. They said more than 100,000 land rust applications were submitted. It could bring in potentially millions of dollars. Pictures from AP are kind of cool. They're running a barge between New York and New Jersey that says .nyc domains at GoDaddy. Shh, don't tell New Jersey. And people are going by on tourist boats and seeing it. It's pretty funny.
But will anybody understand driving by know what the heck that means?
I don't know.
So .desi, by the way, that launched 2 days ago. There's a whopping 534 registrations.
And don't forget .attorney and .lawyer. You wrote that there are a whopping 140 Sunrise early registrations on each of those.
Well, that was 2 days ago. So as of yesterday, there were 464.
What's the cost of those, Mike Berkens?
And 411 on the other. The cost, I mean, for regular registration, I think at Enum is like $44. But
very reasonable.
Really, really premium. So, like accident.attorney is $60,000 a year. I think for the vertical, like divorce or criminal is all like $60,000
And as you pointed out on your blog, Mike, there's a slew of competing TLDs, .law, .legal, .esq for Esquire for a title for lawyers, and abogado, Spanish for attorney, that have yet to come out. So a lot of competition in that space.
A lot of competition in the space, yeah. I actually got 30. I registered 32 of them, but I didn't buy any premiums.
32.
So I have a.
You got 32 what's, Mike?
Attorney, lawyer.
Did you get any Desi's?
I did not get any.
Did you get any
Desi's,
.cities?
I would have went for Desi Arnaz, but it was reversed. Desi Arnaz. The Desi I know.
So a couple of comments on the new GTLDs. I like attorney, lawyer, and I like MC. Now my views on GTLDs originally were similar to Rick's, and now I've been changing a lot because the fact is they do make money. And I've been working with a partner, and we set an outbound call center. We've done a whole bunch of stuff. And I've seen lots of sales evidence where we're selling 20 to 30 a week, over $1,000 now. And a lot of rentals have been selling over 600% profit, and most of them within under 90 days. So there is money to be made in these. I don't know what the future holds for them necessarily, but there's definitely lots of money to be made in the new GTLDs. And I plan on discussing it in detail at my session in Traffic as building out a business, because there is lots of money to be made in these things.
Insider information at targetedtraffic.com. Hey, Mike, the attorney and lawyers that you bought, were they typically geographic, like, Florida attorney or Miami attorney, or were they more around topics like mesothelioma attorney?
Well, the problem is all of those were premiums. So like a Florida personal injury attorney, was around $3,000 even, so even if you had Florida attorney, I think it was really pricey too. Was somewhere, I don't know, it was pricey. It's thousands and thousands of dollars a year. So, I found two that were should have been reserved, but they didn't. So I have UDRP, attorney and lawyer. And then...
don't say that, they'll take them back.
They suddenly just vanished. They're under Bob O'Leary's name.
You're going to get a letter.
And the other ones I just played with, made them sort of brandable. And, like accident, attorney was $60,000 a year. So I registered, the accident attorney for, $40. And basically those are the kinds of names I registered. I just stuck.
Hey, Amar, did you register any of these new TLDs this week?
No, I didn't. I would have registered a bunch of .nycs if I could, and I have some friends out there, so I may do that, partner up with them and kind of get in, built, maybe get a 10 or 20 or 50 .nycs. I think I really like the geos, the good, especially the short ones. So I think .nyc will do well. And my problem with a .lawyer or .attorney is exactly what you said. There's too much confusion. People aren't going to remember. Are you Amar.lawyer, Amar.lawyers, Amar.attorney, Amar.esq, Amar.whatever? It's confusing. And especially if they're charging a premium for the good ones, and I'm sure Amar is reserved in all the extensions, so I'd never be able to get it.
I'm going to go check. All right, last up we go through Sherpa by Sherpa. Anything you'd like to promote? Rick Schwartz, let's start with you. How is the program shaping up for targeted traffic?
Well, as of today, the basic program and agenda is done. And next week, I started already populating the panels, but really wasn't scheduled to be done until next week. So I'm a little bit ahead of schedule now, starting to populate the panels. So if you want to be on something there that's specific or you're passionate about, let me know. And we're going to have, we take no prisoners. We're going to talk about scamming in the industry and all the shenanigans that are going on. I don't know if I'll get anyone on the panel other than Adam and me and Berkens maybe. But we have to grab Berkens on the panel for sure. And he has the most to complain about. So, we definitely have to get him on the panel. And, just watch. There'll be all kinds of news coming out in the next few days. Check out Ron Jackson's piece about the 10 years of traffic. It's really cool. And
A lot of great
It'll be a good
memories from the
time.
past 10 years, and I'm sure a lot of great memories will happen at this targeted traffic that starts at the end of this month, so go reserve your ticket. Mike Berkens, anything you want to promote?
I really wouldn't put it in the promoting
Talk about
category, but I'll just I just noticed a little while ago while we're sort of doing the show that Tech Dirt, which is obviously a non-domainer publication, published a story about these 5,000, which are now over 9,000 domains that were taken away by the sealed court order, and Reddit picked it up. So there's now a discussion going on about that, and there's 78 comments already on Reddit, and so somebody posted maybe from Facebook or somewhere in my background, my little blurb about myself. And then after that, he made this statement. Basically, these parasites snatch up domain names for cheap with little to no effort, then resell them for exorbitant profits despite providing no useful service to society. They also squat on domains that remain nothing more than shitty, ad-filled dead ends instead of letting people actually create something out of them. Domain speculators are a cancer. Not sad to see garbage lose anything. So that was one of the nicer comments, I think, too. It was lovely.
You've been upgraded from a cyber squatter to a parasite.
Yeah, a cancer, actually.
I would just say, thanks, Mom, and
I know,
talk to
and
you later.
you know, as you were reading that, if you remove domain names and put Facebook in there, I think the entire thing could apply to Facebook and social media and, a host of other, what useful, anyways. All right. Reddit is an interesting community, Reddit .com. And a lot of really smart people get on there. A lot of really jaded people get on there that have too much time on their hands, and usually you can learn something. Amar, let's go over to you.
I sent you the link. You can post
anything you want to promote, talk about, mention, dates you have coming up, anything like that?
Yeah, I promote relaxation, chilling, taking it easy. It's underrated, let me tell you. But no, I'm actually going to be laying low for the next few months. I'm just taking it easy, and then I'll start getting back in the game next year.
Laying low. All right, so nothing to promote.
No.
Massages.
When you find a good massage therapist, let me know. Adam Dicker, anything you want to promote, mention, highlight?
Not really, just that for the people that are going to be at traffic, feel free to grab me aside and let's chat and let's both learn something about each other and about the industry. You can't meet enough people when you get together at one of these conferences, so I'm looking forward to that as well. And Amar, when you come back in 8 months or whatever, will there be a ring on your finger?
I do not think there'll be a ring on my finger in 8 months.
Okay, we'll check back in 8 months. Let's check back in 8 months.
I have a long list.
A long list of what?
Long list of things.
Okay.
All right, and to Adam's point, relationships are built in person. I've met all of you in person. I know that one time when I went down to LA, Amar, you're like, who is this Mike Cyger guy? And we went out and had some lunch. We had a couple drinks, and we got to know each other. If you don't have that opportunity, get to targeted traffic, meet people in person, share a meal, share a drink, share something about yourself, learn something about other people. That's the way business is done. We're also airing a DomainSherpa review on Monday. Our regular Sherpa, Adam Dicker, is on, and we have 2 guest Sherpas, Frank Schilling and Dave Evanson. If you want to learn what and how the Sherpas think about valuing domain names, tune in on Monday, or better yet, sign in the right-hand side for the newsletter, and I'll notify you when it is launched. Go post any questions you have. Adam? Adam? Is everybody frozen, or is it just me?
I believe that Drew and Paige are on a Love Boat cruise
Say it
together.
again?
I believe that Drew and Paige are away.
Yes.
They're on a Love Boat cruise together, and they'll be back a week after.
They may be on vacation together. All right, post any questions you have and you'd like to have answered next week on the comments below this video on DomainSherpa.com. Don't post them on YouTube. I don't monitor it. I make that as a convenience for you guys to watch. Adam Dicker, Amar Kuba, Michael Berkens, and Rick Schwartz, thanks for coming on the DomainSherpa discussion, sharing your insights and expertise, and thanks again for leading others to reach their peak. Thank you all for watching. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Out.